For this project, I'm going to be making a rubber mould to shape bait on a method feeder and doing a bit of fishing. My name's Paul Adams, welcome to the Handmade Fisherman. So these are method feeders, something I've been using for probably about 3 or 4 years. Effectively what they are is a little plastic cage which holds bait. On the back's a little weight to keep it on the bottom, and so it sits right. And to use them, normally they're threaded onto your main line, and there's a little swivel that, there we go, popped inside, and that's connected to a very short hook length. I've got a size 16 hook on here with a fake plastic sweet corn. Normally these are used with a hard bait, and the reason for that is they're pushed into a mould, and that mould is filled with a powdered bait, either pellet or just ground up bait, and then this lot is compressed on the top. And that gives you a really compact bait ball with your bait at the centre of that, so any fish coming along and diving in there is probably going to pick up your hook bait. Normally you would buy these feeders with moulds, or you can buy the moulds from the same manufacturers to suit them. Unfortunately, I don't know where I put the moulds for these feeders, and I spent a few hours tearing the house apart and really didn't come up trumps. So I ended up making myself a little feeder mould from some polyurethane rubber. It really only took me about 10 minutes to make, and I had to leave it for a couple of hours curing time, but I wasn't fishing till the next day. So I thought what I'd do is just show you that process with maybe a smaller feeder. I'll make another one for this with some different options in it. So first off, I'm going to use some modelling clay. This is the kind of stuff they give to kids in school. I'm going to use this to kind of create the dome of what would be the bait on my feeder. So I just need to fill everything out and spend a bit of time kind of smoothing it off. So that's it really, it's reasonably smooth and it looks pretty symmetrical. It doesn't need to be perfect, I mean it's just basically going to be a mound of bait. I've got some double-sided sticky tape here which I'm going to cut some off and just use it to stick the bait down. So I just need to make up the gap around the weight and also under this little inlet outlet bit. I'm going to use some more modelling clay and a little sculpting tool to just neaten it up. I think there's always a danger with these things of just messing around with them for far too long. That looks okay. I need to build a mould box around that, and I've got some plastic sheet just back here. These are strips I've cut off, and it's actually a file for paperwork that I've cut to pieces. What I need to do with these is make a little wall around the feeder. The great thing about these common plastics like polyethylene and polypropylene is nothing much sticks to them, so they're really great to use for moulds with most types of resins and rubber. But to make the mould box, I took some marks from where the line through enters and made a few cuts in the centre of my piece so I could bend the plastic back and fit it over the sleeve. Then with one of the other strips I looped it round to give me about a 10mm or 3/8 of an inch gap around the feeder. Then it was just a case of marking and cutting the strip to length. To attach this to the end piece, I used some masking tape and butted the pieces together before sticking them and then trimming the tape flush. Then I snipped off that excess plastic from the slot and added some more tape to the end. Then looped the strip round and stuck it in place before trimming the tape again. Once it was in position, I rolled out some more modelling clay and used this to make a fillet around the box as a seal, but in the end it took quite a bit more clay to actually hold the thing in place. So this is polyurethane rubber, or how it comes, which is basically supplied as two liquids that you mix together in equal parts. I didn't buy this for this project, I bought it to replace the seal on my air pressure tank. But after I'd finished that job, I really had most of the material left, and it's relatively inexpensive stuff, but I didn't have a use for it until, well, this project. I'm going to measure out 25 mils of each and then mix them together for a minute and just basically dump them in the mould, and that should do it. Although easy to use, polyurethane, like most two-part resins, needs to be thoroughly mixed, and it can be tempting to turn yourself into a human whisk, but slow and steady really reduces the chances of getting lots of air into the mix. To pour the mould, generally I pick one spot and run a steady thin stream. This forces the liquid to move over the surface, and along with that thin stream stretches it and pops a good portion of any air bubbles caught in the mix. Leaving the rubber to cure, I just repeated the process using the larger feeder, but I also added a plastic pipe insert to the top of the dome as an experiment. Like all experiments, this may or may not make sense a little later. Despite supposedly having a 2-hour demould time, curiosity got the better of me, and I broke open the mould after about an hour, which came apart really easily. I chamfered the edges with a pair of scissors just to make it more comfortable in the hand, and then finally pressed the feeder out, which left a pretty clean mould. Then it was just a case of waiting for the morning to go fishing. November's the month where I finally figure out that winter's arrived, and I have to overcome that natural urge of getting by the fire with a glass of whiskey. But yesterday I suited up for the conditions and got myself down the lake for an afternoon's fishing. I started out fishing with the hard baits on the hook lengths, like the plastic sweet corn, and to fill the feeder I used softened damp pellets. These are soaked for about a minute before draining them off, and then mixed a small amount of a fizzy ground bait in to get some scent in the water. Despite doing everything right, this led to a couple of hours of zen-like tranquility, completely undisturbed by any fish. So I switched to double maggots as a hook bait, which gave me a chance to test out my modified feeder mould. Really, the point of the tube or insert was to have a place I could put the maggots and then trap the line in some pellet mix before compressing it. If I just compress the maggots in the normal way, which I've tried before, often the pressure can just pull them off the hook or even burst them. The new mould gets round this and left them in the right position, and I could see they were still hooked properly before casting them out. The bait ball should quickly start to break down, freeing that little bit of trapped line, but keeping the maggots roughly in the right position on the bait mound. It didn't take me long to root out the smallest fish in the lake, a kind of personal talent of mine. And there were no epic battles that required the use of a landing net, just a few small roach and also a skimmer bream. I'm really pleased with how the moulds turned out for a project that was just really off the cuff, but I should be back soon with another tackle making experiment. Thanks for watching. This video was made with the support of my patrons on Patreon, so a big thanks to them. If you'd like to support this channel and future videos, then please consider becoming a patron. I'll post a link on screen and below.